Sure, PMP is a pretty large topic to discuss on. There are many aspects, there are so many topics to be covered, but I thought that in my webinar Wednesday, I'm going to start with how to prepare for the PMP exam. This is one topic which I personally find a lot of people face problems with. There is so much of material out there. There is so much of confusing information out there. I thought that I will actually get started with this specific topic. All right. Without much ado, let's get started. And a quick note about myself. My name is Maneesh Vijaya, and just a little bit of information about myself will give, put everything in perspective, where I come from, why am I doing this seminar, and what can I really bring to the table as far as PMP and PMP certification is concerned. All right. So, I have a total of, I think, approximately 28 years of experience in strategy, program, delivery head, project management, and I've been lucky to be able to work in almost all industries and domain, right from IT to defense sector, to shipping, to aluminum, to Aramco, which is oil and gas, to IT, you name it. I've been lucky that way. So I can bring across, knowledge from all different domains. And even today, I consult in more than, 16 to 17 countries and just about every. I've been running a registered education provider since 2007. We are a global registered education provider since 2007 with PMI US. In 16 countries, which are spread across 3 continents. Also authored 3 books on PMP. There are 4 more to hit the market pretty soon. But right now, what's available on Amazon, that's my publishing agent, which is 3 books from PMP. And then, I'm a founder of the very first audio platform, which is dedicated to project management. The name of this platform is PM Dhwani. It's the first of its kind on the planet, completely dedicated to project management. I've certified over 20,000 professionals on PMP since 2007, and these 20,000 professionals are my personal credit. We have other trainers and consultants on our panel. We've crossed quite a bit, but since you're talking to me, I'm the person who's actually conducting this webinar. I thought I should only talk about the number of participants that I myself personally have been, accredited with. So that's 20,000 professionals since 2007. And I'm a nature photographer. I'm a beer traveler. I travel for beer. I'm currently writing 2 books on beer. I know it's interesting. I'm usually referred to as Beer Baba. And I've traveled to more than 72 countries. I do photography, I do street photography, I do wildlife photography. I'm also a wood carving person. I do a lot of wood carving, and I'm also an author now. All right, so that's about myself. And the main question is why this webinar, right? As I said before, one of the biggest reasons I chose this topic for webinar is because candidates seem confused about how to start preparing. One of the biggest problems is they've attended the session, they've got the 35 contact hours, certificate, but how do you, actually prepare? Their friends keep telling them this is what you need to do. There are so much of material. Some of them are not so good, available on the internet. So, that's one of the reasons about this. And they seem confused about the best resources to study from. There's so many resources. Everybody claims it's the best. Whom to believe? Who should we actually follow? Or what is it that we do? All right. I find people searching for dumps. Now, this is a very important part. I really want to put a stop to this. Even places where I posted my webinar, immediately, as if some sharks were landing on the page, a lot of people immediately, in comment, they actually wanted to entice people by saying, we've got leaked information, we've got leaked papers, we've got question and answers, we've got dumps, we are going to give that to you, right? It's just going to cost you this much, or send me your email. Now, those are dangerous things, right? Dumps. There is nothing in PMP. Please understand, there is nothing in PMP which is known as dumps. You cannot create a dumps for PMP certification. All right. So please stay away from that. It's just night operators. Those are very dangerous material. People just want to peddle it as dumps, make quick bucks, and at your expense get away with it. So stay away from it. Find a lot of unethical practices going on. People are sending out PDFs, copied PDFs, all across places, leaked questions and all those kind of things. Please just stay away from it. People are scouting the internet for free resources. Yes, there are a lot of free resources on the internet. If you just type PMP, voila, you are going to get bombarded with a lot of information, with a lot of questions, you name it. Who says that they are actually correct? In fact, I actually went through some of the questions, some of the resources, and I found that of all the resources which are available free on PMP, of course, I did not have the time or the luxury to go through all of them, but I did around 50 pages of Google and clicked on each of the links, and what I found was very disturbing. More than 95% of all the material that they were giving, including the questions, were actually wrong. Forget about the answers of the question being wrong. I'm talking about the question themselves being wrong, right? So they gladly put questions from 4th edition, peddling as 6th edition, PMB OK 6th edition questions. And that's just the start. It's all pretty dangerous. So please stay away from free resources. Very dangerous. And then you have Udemy and other trainers. They really do not explain how to prepare for the exams. They do a great training. These are good trainings available at Udemy, I'm pretty sure. I've not been to any one of them, but I'm sure, because a lot of people go there, I'm sure they must be giving good value. And then you have these other trainings, other trainers who provide PMP. Everybody's trying to do a great job. However, what I did see, that most of them somehow forget exactly how to prepare for the exams. So that's where, of course, post online, especially if you go for a cheap session to save some money, of course, that's not the point that they are going to discuss that how to prepare for the exams. Okay, that's the reason for the webinar. Let me actually also explain to you about the scope of this webinar. So what happens is, you get the training done for PMP, which is the 35 contact hours, and then you have the entire PMP journey in which you actually apply for the exams, prepare for the exams, and then book a time period with the Pearson. Prometric is all gone, it's all Pearson now, and then you actually go for PMP certification exam. So that's your PMP journey. The scope of our webinar right now is preparation of PMP exams after you've obtained the 35 contact hours and before you actually sit for the actual exam. So that's the journey. And what it does not include is how to obtain your 35 contact hours. It does not include how to apply for PMP exams. Of course, all these topics will be covered at some time in one of the Wednesdays, because every Wednesday I'm going to put on some kind of a important topic about PMP, other project management aspects, ACP, stuff like that. So I'm sure these things would get covered subsequently, but for right now, for this webinar, these are not covered. Examination process, and then we'll also not be talking about the post-certification, continued certification. We'll not be talking about it. Okay, time for us to get started, all right? So this is what you are here for. And the point is, the moment we get started, let's have a quick poll. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get started with a particular poll in which I'll have to stop the sharing and actually send you a poll. So I'm going to launch a poll, and please, it's just got 2 options, got one single question, 2 options. Click on the option so that I know the kind of people I'm talking to. and I will change the way I have to speak based on the people who are here. So I'm launching the poll now. Information about the poll, you'll get a dialog box answering, and that'll give me a very good idea. Quite good. It looks like we've got good speed of poll coming in. We're still at 18, two more people to go. Not bad. So most of us who are here, they've already done PMP training, which is fantastic. But for those people who have still not done PMP training, don't worry. In some of the Wednesday webinars, I'll be talking about the best PMP trainings, how to study, which ones to go for, Udemy or other things. I'll give you a complete lowdown on all of these, right? But for right now, you can just attend this and understand how to prepare once you finish your PMP training. And thank you guys for polling. It was pretty fast, and I have the results now. All right, so let's get started. I have the polls. I know the kind of people who are here. Now let's talk about the three most overall important steps in PMP preparation. And these preparations I've been able to develop, and we've got near 100% success rate only because of these three steps. All right. The very first step is, it's like, I don't know how many of you have been in sports. I have represented my country, of course, under 18 in swimming. I was supposed to be a very good swimmer, particularly a 3.5 meter diving board person. I got bronze, got defeated by a Japanese guy, kid actually. I was a kid too. But what we used to learn is that for anything that you do, you need to build your strength. You should not start running. You should not start swimming. You should not try to see how fast you are. Don't try to check yourself. Just build your knowledge. And when it comes to PMP, we are going to follow those very steps. The very first step is build your knowledge base, right? So we're going to talk about it, how to build your knowledge base. Apart from, from among the three steps that we'll be taking, this particular step, building your knowledge base, takes the most time, right? And it's worth investing in that. Once we are done with our strength, we have our knowledge, we then need to build up speed, right? You got 200 questions. We need to be done in 4 hours. 200 questions in 4 hours. If you do some basic mathematics, it comes to just 72 seconds per question. And 72 seconds, you got to bring it down to less than 50 seconds per question, because at the end of your exam, you also need enough time to do reviews, go back to those kind of questions which you thought were confusing. You need to go back and think again. Then there are quantitative questions. So you really need to build up your speed. So once you have your knowledge, we need to develop a speed in which you can, if I ask you, what's a project? You can immediately tell me what the answer is. How many processes? 49. I mean, you really need to react instead of, thinking about, all right, let me think about it. Which page did I study? No, it's too late. You don't have that luxury, right? So we build our knowledge, and then we build our speed to recall that knowledge as fast as we can, right? And once you've done that, you need to build stamina. How many of you can sit in front of a computer for 4 hours nonstop, constantly answering one question after another? Very few of you. Right? We've lost that ability since our university days, right? We don't do that anymore. But that's exactly what's going to happen when you actually sit for the exams, right? So we are going to follow these 3 steps, and I'm going to get into details of these 3 steps. And I'm also going to tell you some of the pitfalls that people fall into. So step away from it, all right? So follow these 3 steps, and I'm going to, take some questions and answers regarding these steps towards the end of this, right? Let's start. The very first step is building your strength. This is going to take the maximum amount of time, not only in this webinar, but also when you actually prepare for your exams. The first thing about building your strength is choose one source and stick to it. You should not keep on changing your source. Okay, I'm going to go to Udemy. I'm going to go to this book, and I'm going to, oh, one of my friends suggested another book. Oh, there's a lot of free dumps available. No, just stick to one thing, right? One set of things, I would say. And please avoid free internet sources. Do not amass too many books or resources. You're going to get thoroughly confused what to read, what not to read. Please don't do that. One book you should not study. Well, it'll be politically very wrong on my part to name it. I'm just going to give you a hint. Everybody knows about it. It's a very famous book. It's one of the oldest books. It's really sold like crazy. People copy it all around and send it across to each other. It's written by an American lady. And that's the one book that you should not study. Now, you may find me very arrogant. You may find it to be very difficult to digest, especially the fact that it's so popular. Well, I think we are all grown up to understand that just because something is very popular, it does not really mean it's good for your health. It's good for your knowledge, right? McDonald's is just about everywhere on the planet. Does not really mean that it's the best food. So we really need to avoid the McDonald's and the, I don't know, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I have not been to these places. We really need to avoid those of knowledge. So the one book that you should never, ever study is the one that I just mentioned. And I'm pretty sure most of you really understand what it is, because it will be politically wrong on my part to actually start naming authors. And I have authored a few resources, but then this is really not a marketing kind of a webinar. Letting you know, it's PM Dhwani, which is dhwani.pmpulse.com. And then there is Read and Past Notes, which is Amazon. But then I'm going to skip it immediately, because the purpose of this is for you to prepare no matter what you have, right? And then you need to master your definitions. One of the amazing things that you can do while you're preparing, you should be very good at definitions. For example, if I ask you what's a project, what's a program, what are stakeholders, what are baseline, you should be able to say things like, a temporary endeavor to undertake or create, a product, service, or result. And that's how fast you need to speak. So when I talk about stakeholders, you need to immediately tell me any person or body of persons who can either affect the project positively or negatively, or get affected by it directly or indirectly, positively or negatively. That's how you need to speak about stakeholders. When you talk about baseline, you should immediately come and tell me baseline is a final approved plan just before execution. That's the way you need to know the definitions. Talk about backlog, sponsor, communication, risk, requirements, analogous estimating, historical, WBS-based estimating, bottom-up estimating, three-point estimating. You should know all of them, right? You should know the definitions. That is the one area you really need to invest. Now, how do you do that? So one of the best sources is get hold of a PMBOK guide and look at the glossary. The end part where they have all the definitions, the entire definitions you really need to get through, right? And those are very logical stuff. You really don't have to mug up, right? You just need to have it, have a look at it from a very, a very logical angle, and you'll certainly realize that you have such amazing command over the definitions. So that is something very crucial for exams, right? It's an amazing trick. Learn all the definitions, right? Okay. And another thing that you should do is you should know the basic purpose of each knowledge area. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You should know the basic purpose, like the very first paragraph about each of the knowledge areas, right? It goes a long way for you to understand and, kind of understand which kind of processes belong to which knowledge area and belong to which specific process groups. So it'll be very easy for you to relate when you understand the knowledge areas themselves. Overall purpose of each of the processes. For example, there are 49 processes. But if I look at a specific process like develop project charter, I should have notes like this. Develop project charter, what it means, it's the very first process. The very first process that ever takes place on the, in any project on the planet. What it does, it authorizes PM to do, to do the project. Sponsor is an expert. Who creates it? Sponsor creates it. And it's a high-level process. It's not going to be detailed. It'll be just a high-level process. If I talk about integrated change control, what does it do? It approves or rejects change requests. It's run by CCP. Who's CCP? Change Control Board. These are the kind of notes that you need to develop. Then you talk about control procurements. I think you get the picture, right? Do this for all 49 processes. That is how you need to study, right? Don't try to mug up. Have basic logical understanding. What process does what? What is the basic objective of each of the process? And suddenly, without trying to mug up anything, you'll even come to know what the inputs and tools and techniques and output would be. It's that easy, right? So this is how you need to work as far as exams are concerned. All right, let's continue. This is a very big problem. You see, in your real world, you are already working in different companies, you have meetings, you have project status reports, you talk to your bosses, you talk to your team members, but there is no guarantee that within your organization and your team members, you are going to speak the same terms that PMP uses. Chances are, it's not going to happen because it's not necessary that your company has adopted the whole concepts of PMP. Some maybe, but not all of it. And that's where a lot of problems happen. When people are preparing for PMP exams and they end up using different terms for PMP, like for PMP terms, they use a different term at their offices, they get confused and they're not able to react very well when it comes to exams. So have a look. At least during the PMP preparation time, use only PMP specific terms, if not after. So for example, some people use, instead of procurement, they use the term called tendering. A lot of people, especially if you're in the Gulf region, Middle East region, certain portions of India, certain portions of Asia Pacific, they use the word tendering a bit too liberally. It covers a very wide subject, but that's not the term that you should use when you're talking about PMP. So make sure that while you're preparing, remember procurement. It's not tendering, it's procurement, right? So that you react when the question comes, you react accordingly, right? Kickoff meeting instead of commitment meetings. I mean, commitment meetings is some of the companies that I know they use this term, and I'm sure in your company they must be using some other terms. But make sure you understand what is kickoff meeting and keep on using the term kickoff meeting at least till the time that you're preparing for the exams. Change request should not be referred to as variation request or some other name. Change request should be called a change request, all right? Sponsor instead of initiator, HOD, and functions and departments instead of silos and divisions. Silos and divisions is not a term that is used in PMP. So please use PMP term at least till the time that you're preparing for the exams. Right. Now, this is the most powerful part, and this is also the part where people really get confused. I'm a member of so many different project management groups in LinkedIn, as well as Facebook, as well as other places on WhatsApp. Now, what I do see is there is a lot of confusion about ITTOs. I'm going to tell you something very horrific that I recently came across. There was a gentleman, a globally famous person. I mean, he's a really famous person. He's got courses which are the highest rated in Udemy. And I found that person giving an advice to his, trainees that, guys, you need to mug up. Literally, he used the word, you need to mug up all the inputs and outputs and tools and techniques of all the 49 processes. Talk about impossible. You should not. I'm sorry. That is precisely what you should not be doing. There are no questions in the exams which actually give you questions like, hey, what is the output of this, or what is the input of this process? They don't. Most of the questions are around scenarios. And when they talk about scenarios, you need to understand which process they're talking about, and therefore what tools and techniques so that you can answer that question faster. That is the only purpose of ITTOs. Now, how do you do that? It's very simple. Please understand, you don't have to mug up anything. This is what you need to do. You need to find patterns in ITTOs. So I'm just going to share some of the patterns which I'll tell people, which I've written in my book. Like, for example, there is a process called develop team. And it has one of the outputs. It's got other outputs as well, but there is one particular output called team performance assessments. What you should know that this output does not become an input to any other process except one, and that is manage team. That's it. Just knowing this will actually give you a lot of confidence about ITTOs. ITTOs means input, tools and techniques, and outputs. For those people who have not gone for the training, there are 49 processes. Each process has inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. And they are very important for exams, but please understand, don't put additional stress on yourself to mug them up. Don't. There are a lot of patterns. Search those patterns out, right? They're amazing patterns. So just look at this. If you knew this, you have super confidence, right? Now look at another pattern. Look at this pattern. There are 2-3 things which are there, which are very prominent in all the processes of PMP. Those are work performance data, work performance information, and work performance report. A work performance data becomes a work performance information, and work performance information becomes work performance report. But how does it do it? What is the journey? Which are the processes it goes through? Well, all you have to remember this pattern, which I'm showing you right here. What it says, work performance data is an output of a process called direct and managed project work. Yes, it's an output of only one process, direct and managed project work. And this output of work performance data actually becomes input to 10 processes. But the beauty is, all those 10 processes belong to monitoring and controlling process group, right? That's it. You don't have to know anything more. And each of those 10 processes produce something known as work performance information. And each of those work performance information become an input to only one process, and that is monitor and control project work. And monitor and control project work converts that information and generates as an output work performance report. Simple. How much do you have to mug up? Absolutely nothing. That's how you need to do ITTOs, right? So there's a lot of, I'm sorry, I'm going to use a little bit of a foul language. There's a lot of garbage out there. People are scaring each other, people talking to each other. Oh man, I learned all the ITTOs, but I forgot some. I'm not able to remember. I've got another trick. Don't fall for that. Those are really wrong ways. It's a lot of garbage. You just understand the patterns. Once you understand the patterns, search for patterns, you can't forget. All right, let me show you another one. The journey of all the deliverables, right? The deliverable which gets produced. So where does it get produced? Well, the process where it gets produced is direct and managed project work. Yeah, that's where it gets produced. And it becomes input to a process called control quality. All you have to remember, a basic term, verification before validation. It's a very important trick. Verification before validation. That means if you validate something, you need to verify it first. And therefore, control quality does the verification part. And therefore, the deliverables, which is an output of the process called direct and managed project work, becomes an input to control quality, where it's inspected, it's verified. If found okay, then the output becomes verified deliverables. And guess what? Verified deliverables become an input to the process called validate scope. And validate scope, where the customers, your stakeholders, your end users, whoever they are, they actually do the UAT, or the user acceptance, the NOC, whatever it is, whichever domain that you come from. And if they find it okay, you have an output called accepted deliverables. And accepted deliverables become an input to the process called close project or phase, because that's the trigger which says my project is over. That's how you need to remember stuff. All right? Please do not mug up, right? This is how. So you make your own patterns. It's very easy to do so. There's nothing great about it. It's not something that I've done really something out of the blue. Nothing of that kind. I'm just pointing in the right direction. Learn to love ITTOs. Learn to understand what these ITTOs are. And that's it. You don't have to mug all of them, right? That's it. Okay, then there are some very unique things in ITTOs, right? So if you try to find some ITTO unique stuff, like I'm going to point out some of them, the output of the process defined scope, which is project scope statement. So project scope statement is an output of a process called define scope. It becomes an input to only one process, and that is create WBS. Now, if you roll this, at any point of time you see project scope statement anywhere in any of the questions, you know it's an output of define scope, and it becomes only input to create WBS. And you read it, you read the question a little more carefully, and you got the answer there and then. That's how you need to understand ITTOs, right? Find more unique stuff. Like, for example, at any point of time in any of the examination questions, if you come across the term called decomposition, you need to understand it's a tool and technique. When I write TT, it means tool and technique of only two processes. Out of all the 49 processes, decomposition is a tool and technique of only two processes. One is create WBS and the other is define activities. That's it. So you see this term anywhere in the exam, you got to know it's talking about either create WBS or define activities. It cannot be talking about anything else on the planet. All right, that's the beauty of knowing the unique things about ITTOs. All right, deliverables are an output of only one process, and that is direct and managed project work. But I think I've already shown you, how it works. All right. And then product analysis is a tool and technique that is unique to the process defined scope. So if a question is talking about product analysis or alternatives analysis, they're only talking about defined scope, nothing else. That's it. That's how you need to talk about ITTOs. Of course, I can't show all the ITTOs and the patterns, but I'm pointing you in the right direction, right? So that's part of building strength. This is how you build up strength. That's the meaning of the term building strength. Again, do I have to remember all the ITTOs? Ice Cube is my favorite. Absolutely no. You just don't. Absolutely not. Okay, just find patterns, find unique ITTOs, find interesting aspect of ITTOs, and that's it. That's it. That's the end of it. Move forward. Okay, and then you need to be good at quantitative formulas. Right? For example, you should know very fast CV. Right? What is CV? So I already got a question and answer from somebody, but I'm just going to, okay, somebody says that I have this presentation. Well, actually, I'm going to answer all these questions at the end, but since I just saw it, I couldn't stop myself. Yes, this will actually be available on YouTube. I'll actually post it because I'm recording it. It'll be converted into a video, and I'll be sending it to you. Yeah, but that's not really important. This webinar is just an excuse. You need to find out your better ways of studying. I'm just telling you the direction, right? So again, coming back to this, practice quantitative formulas. Try to write formulas like children, like school kids. We should learn how to practice writing formulas, because once you write, there's a little bit of a muscle memory, and the moment you do that, you get to react much faster when you look at examination questions. So understand all the earned value questions and formulas, right? EAC, there are 3 formulas. There is a 4th formula also, but that's never asked. It's actually a wrong formula. I proved it. I've also written it to PMI. You will not find it in the 7th edition. It's not only me, more than 50, 60 people have written to them. That's a very academic formula. So from exams point of view, these are the only formulas that will show up. But the point is, you should know all these formulas, TCPI, everything. You should be exceptionally good at calculation of critical path. Now, which means you should practice how to create the network. A lot of people I know could not finish the exam because they were too busy trying to create a network diagram at the time of the exams. That was the first time they were creating a network diagram, and they really got, hassled. They could not finish the questions, all the questions in time, right? So learn how to make the network diagrams, all right? Calculation of flow. This is something that you should be good at. Now, this is also one of the reasons that I told you not to buy a specific book written by that famous lady from US, because the calculation of flow, the risk management, scope management, procurement are completely given wrong in that book. So I have no clue why it's written like that, why nobody's correcting it, but it's bad, it's wrong, right? And calculation of float over there is absolutely downright horrific, right? So that's the reason why. A decision tree, expected monetary value. These things you should know. Like you should be committed to your practice. Should be part of your muscle memory. A calculation of reserves, right? How EMV, expected monetary value, is used for calculation of reserves. That is something that you should know. But at the same time, please do not waste your time with learning the formula of internal rate of return or NPV or PV or getting too deep into probability formulas. It doesn't work. Nobody asks you that question. All right. It's not even required. So don't waste your time with those. I've seen a lot of books that actually written stuff about IRR, NPV. It's not required. All the examination asks you is if you have 5 projects with IRR, which is the best project, you simply choose the one which has the highest IRR. That's it. Khalas, you're done. You just move forward. All right. But there are no reasons where you need to know the formulas of IRR, NPV, PV, complex probability calculations, none of that. All right. So you don't need that. All right. This is very important. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. The biggest mistake done by people when they're studying, they have this urge to answer questions, try out some questions. Please don't do that. Do not attempt any questions at this time. Let me try and explain to you. Let's see that you are trying to prepare yourself to, let's say, run 100 meters and you want to compete with Usain Bolt, right? That's your benchmark. You are building your strength so that you'd have that muscle tone so that you can run, right? Forget about running fast so that you can run, all right? Now, at this time, when you're building your muscles, you're building a muscle tone, you're trying to lose some weight, at that point of time, you're asking yourself, you know what, let me see what is my time at 100 meters. Usain Bolt did it in something like 9 point something. I'm not very good with history, 9 point something. Let me see. And the first time you run, you took something like 18 minutes, 18 seconds, right? How does that make you feel? You suddenly feel, man, I'm not good enough. Why am I getting so many questions wrong? If this is how I'm going to run, man, I'm never going to be able to achieve. You forget that you are not there yet. You really need to build your knowledge. And when you're building your knowledge, don't test yourself. You're only going to make yourself feel scared because you've not even developed your skill of speeding, of how to recall answers fast. You've not done that. You're just building your strength. So don't try to jump hoops. Don't try to do a 100-meter dash when you're just building up your strength. That's the reason why. You will just come in your own way. You're going to scare yourself. Don't do that. I've seen so many people, they start studying, they attempt a few questions, and then they postpone their exam. Why? Because I don't think I'm ready. Don't let that happen to you. This is not the time. Do not attempt any questions at this time. Trust me. This is how it's supposed to be. A time would come where you would actually do nothing but answer questions, but this is not that time. All right? So when you study, just study. Okay? And please, please, please do not mug up. The whole of PMP is exceptionally logical, right? So just stick to logic, right? It's very logical. Look for patterns, look for practice, look for logic, understand definitions, know the objectives of each of the processes, and man, that's more than enough. That's it. Now, once you have the entire strength with yourself, now is the time that you have the muscle tone, the body fat ratio, the definition, the skill, that now you have to practice your speeding, right? Now you can talk about Usain Bolt, right? So now is the time for building your speed. Now, how do you build your speed? So why is, of course, why is speed important? Like your knowledge is just not enough. Many people, as I told you before, could not finish the exam. So if you have a lot of knowledge, but you're moving at the speed of snails, sorry, you're not going to finish the exams, right? And some of them take too much time thinking and trying to recall definitions at the time of the exams and concepts. It's very dangerous, right? You really need to build speed. A lot of people keep going back and forth in the exam. Did I answer that correctly? Let me go back and see. And they never finish the exam. So that's the reason why your knowledge is fantastic, but that knowledge is not good enough. You need to have that knowledge available at your fingertips at a moment's notice. You need to have that speed, right? So how do we increase our speed? The best way to increase your speed is use flashcards, right? Now, if you don't know what a flashcard is, it was invented by Japanese long time back in 1800 something. And what they used to do is, it's a very important technique available on the planet, and it's also used for kids, to make them, learn stuff fast. And the same thing happens with us, right? So what we do in a flashcard is we have a question on the front of the flashcard, right? And we give just 1 second to a person. Once we read out the question, we just give 1 second to the person to, give the answer. And whether the person answers correctly or not, we just turn the flashcard around because the answer is on the back and the person looks at it. And if they've got 100 flashcards or 200 flashcards or 500 flashcards, they can go through it again and again. And guess what happens? They're not remembering. It's like mind conditioning, right? I don't know how many of you listen to music when they drive. If you have a flashcard filled with music, maybe 100 MP3s, it doesn't really matter. If you've heard them one or twice, you've heard all the songs once or twice, something very interesting happens to you. The moment you put it the third time, just when a particular song is ending, in your mind, you can really make out what's the next song gonna be. You didn't mug up. It's just your mind conditioning. That's what a flashcard does for you. It does mind conditioning. It's an extremely powerful technique, all right? So most of my students, they finish the exam in just about 3 hours or 3 hours, 20 minutes. That's it, right? I'm not kidding. They get bored of reviewing all the questions, and then they just click submit and they just get the hell out of there. So that's what flashcards does for you. But I'm not saying that you finish it in 3.5 hours or something like that. Finish it, but definitely finish it before 4 hours. But the way to finish your exams before 4 hours is to use flashcards, right? We've also created a flashcard, and there's a very nice surprise for you guys once you reach the end of this. I know you have questions. What about flashcards and how do we get it? Don't worry. There's a very nice surprise for you guys because you joined this webinar. So there's a beautiful surprise for you guys. You'll have to wait. So that's what the flashcards are. It's a Japanese concept, which I've used very well. And I really, really love this concept. All right. Now, the last part. We need to build our stamina. But you can only build your stamina once you've had strength and once you've built your speed. Now you have to have that strength and stamina last for the entire marathon of 4 hours of sitting in front of the examination and answering one question after another without zoning out or without losing focus, right? Thinking of your lunch or dinner or some other movie. I mean, you need to be focused. That's what your stamina is all about. So now is the time that you become eligible to practice stamina. And how do you practice stamina? Well, you have to do full PMP sets of examinations. You have to practice, right? Initially, practice only the knowledge area-wise questions. That's going to tell you which knowledge area you really need to go back to, right? So do your knowledge area-wise questions, and one after the other, keep on practicing 200 questions in 3 hours and 45 minutes, not 4 hours. You must see that I've written 3 hours and 45 minutes, not 4 hours. Now, you might be wondering why. Well, you have to practice. You have to do overtraining. You have to learn as a usual matter to do 200 questions or to attempt 200 questions and get them right in 3 hours, 45 minutes. Because when you actually sit for the real exam, you have to keep some minutes apart for a jitter factor. People get nervous. So keep that aside. Some extra minutes will be spent in the real exam. So overtrain yourself. For you, the time is 3 hours, 45 minutes when you're practicing for 200 questions and get them right. That is how you need to be ready for your exams, right? And please do not, whichever simulator that you go to, please remember that The best simulators are those which do not have a pause button. When you do the 200 questions, there are so many simulators out there which have made it so convenient for people that they will just put a pause button. They'll say, you know what, I'm going to do 50 questions right now, then I'm going to have my breakfast, and then I'm going to go to the office, and I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to do another 50 questions, then I'm going to have my dinner. You've lost the battle, because in the real exams, you don't have a pause button. So the best simulators on the planet do not have a pause button. Once you start, you gotta finish all the 200 questions. You cannot cancel it in between and come back and say, okay, I'll pick up from wherever I left off. No, sir, that's not what a simulator is meant for. Simulator is supposed to simulate a real exam. So practice only on a proper simulator. 200 questions and as many as you can, because you are practicing your stamina, right? Never ever take printouts and do it on paper. No, because the real exam would be on a laptop, on a desktop, right? So you need to look at a screen. You need to be conversant with the use of mouse or use of keyboard. You should not do it on paper. A lot of people practice a lot of questions on paper, but they are not able to adjust very well when they immediately go to the screen. You know, they get glary eyes, they've got a lot of problems. So don't let that happen to you. Only practice on laptop, desktop, and tab, but not on your cell phone. Cell phone is too small a screen. Please let that not happen to you. Laptop, desktop, or a tab, a good 16-inch and above tab. All right, only those. All right, that's what stamina is all about. Okay. So guys, that's how you prepare for the PMP exams. And now is the time for me to have a look at the questions and answers. And all right, so Arnaldo Angelini, I'm sorry, I may not have pronounced your name very well, but I'm just assuming that I was kind of okay with the pronunciation of your name. Well, this presentation will be provided to you. You know what I'm going to do? Since you guys were here, I'm going to send the link to all of you through the, through your emails, right? So that's, you guys deserve it. This will be there with you. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a video out of it, and it'll be on my YouTube channel, right? So I'm pretty sure that, takes care of your answer, Arnaldo. And then I go to Mr. Gopalakrishnan V. He says, which good is good to prepare for exams? Second is the pattern method you explained is a really good way to understand the interface between knowledge area and process. Thank you so much, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. I'm trying to do my best to let people know how to prepare, right? As I said before, learn the subject and suddenly you don't have to mug up anything, right? No matter how complex the questions are, you'll be able to, just give it. Now, let me come back to your very first question. Now, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, that's a very trick question. Which book is good to prepare for the exam? Because I'm an author too. So obviously, like everybody's ideas, everybody's own child, the best book and the best child is their own. So that's the same problem with me. I've written a book. It's got amazing reviews, and you could actually, look at. You don't have to buy it. What you could do is you can go to Amazon.com, just type "Read and Pass Notes." It's called "Read and Pass Notes" for PMP exams. So what they do in Amazon is that you can have a way of looking inside. So when you look inside, almost the entire one of the first chapters is completely given, I think. So you can actually go through it, see if it matches your way of working for it. You can then go for it. The reason I wrote that book, I think you should read that portion about my book. The reason I wrote it, because other books are only talking about how to pass the exam. And that is something I really don't appreciate, because the focus of other authors has shifted from understanding the subject to just certification. And that's a very, that defeats the whole purpose. Most of the questions in the real world exam, they come from real world problems. They are scenario based. So if you understand the subject, people who have read my book, they've found it so easy to appear for the exams that they've come back and sent me emails telling me how beautiful that book is, because they understood everything. There were a couple of guys who bought that book with the simple reason that, I'm not even going to go for PMP, because This book tells me how to be a good project manager. So that's a book that I would suggest because I authored it, and it's pretty obvious that since I authored it, that's the book that I'm going to suggest. So I'm sorry, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, that's the only answer that I can give as far as book is concerned, because I put my soul, my complete soul, my thinking, into that particular book. All right. So now I move to Mr. Atul Sharma, who says, "Do you have training courses for 35 videos available on Udemy?" No, sir. I'm not a very big fan of Udemy for a very different reason. So I do not have my course on Udemy. In fact, right now, I do not even have a course which is like available on demand. I have only two ways of doing the course. One is face-to-face, which because of whatever that's happening on the planet right now, I can't have. And the second one is, which has become very popular, is I have something which is known as LiveWire. I like the way we are having webinars. I convert it into a meeting where I have 10, 15, 20 people. They attend, and it's a complete live training, but done over the internet. I mean, that's how we call it, the LiveWire. Right? So Atul Sharma, I'm sorry, I'm not really a big fan of Udemy, because I'll tell you also one of the reason why I'm not a big fan of Udemy. What has happened in Udemy, there was some good, it started beautifully, Udemy, and I almost created a material for Udemy. But what I saw in Udemy is that they are just undercutting each other. Everybody is trying to undercut each other, right? And when you undercut, what happens is, there was a PMP training which was available for $5, just $5. Now, so what happens is when everybody undercuts themselves, they also control the content, right? And the other problem with Udemy is many people are focused on the beauty of the training course with a lot of movement, with a lot of animation and stuff like that, instead of real hardcore material of making people understand. So unfortunately, Mr. Atul, I lost a little bit of respect for Udemy. It's a beautiful thing, but for some reason, I'm not a big fan of it anymore. Right? So I don't have a course there. Never will, actually. Mr. Ali, is PMP exam online or on-site? Well, Mr. Ali, let me explain that. The PMP exam, well, this webinar was not meant for that, but since you've asked, I have no option but to kind of answer that to you, right? So this PMP course is now is online, but previously it was online on-site. That means you had to get to a specific place, and they would have cameras and security features, physical security and virtual security. And there you had to get online using their laptop, their machine, right? But now what is happening is Pearson is actually working on a very interesting way of clearing the exam when you're sitting at your home. But right now it's not confirmed. They're working on it. They're trying to figure out how to maintain security. I mean, it could happen that somebody's trying to give the question, trying to answer the question, and he's got another very big shot who's already passed his PMP right next to him, giving him, okay, click that. A is the answer, B is the answer. That should not happen. So they're trying to figure out how to do it. It's not confirmed yet, but they're working on a POC, right? So I hope that I answered your question, Mali, as well as I could. But once this problem that we are facing as far as COVID is concerned, I think Pearson centers would be available again from there. All right, coming back to Mr. Gopalakrishnan, what is the course duration of LiveWire? Okay, LiveWire is my training. So that takes 35 contact hours. I have to finish 35 contact hours. My particular training is available for 36 hours because PMI has rated my training very high. So, so for 35 hours, we get a credit of 36 and a half hours, which is okay. But we don't do it like this, that we continuously run the whole day. So right now, we do it in multiple batches, multiple styles. So right now, I have a group from one of the largest you might have heard of it. There's a company called Philips. So there's the whole bunch of guys from Philips. They've come all 20, 25 of them. And what I'm doing is I'm doing alternate days for them, right? But then sometimes I create my own, live-wire sessions, and those are very fixed. So usually there would be something like 4 to 5 hours on any given day. So we have a little bit of an extended training, right? So Mr. Gopalakrishnan, is that, I hope I've been able to answer that question. The best thing is you can keep in touch with the website called pmpulse.net, PM with a dash in between, pm-pulse.com, and we have workshops listed over there. And anyway, I have your email ID. I'll keep you informed if something comes up. All right. So Mr. Abdul Azad has written, your book is really good, and in mind you do a lot of visualization, which I bought long back, and still I love to refer. As you said, have to follow multiple books. Can you suggest a few, please? In fact, I what I said was actually the opposite of it, is not to have multiple books. So maybe my pronunciation was not good, or maybe I skipped through that slide a bit too fast. Mr. Abdul Azad, what I referred is do not go through multiple books. I'll tell you the reason why. That two different books approach the same thing in a very different fashion. So the author spends a lot of time building up till the end. So if you read one particular knowledge area from one particular book, another knowledge area from another book, you'll miss the whole perspective because it's written in a particular way. So you should stick to one particular book. Do a lot of time researching on books, right? And then buy one book. And I'm not only talking about one book, I'm talking about one resource, right? It could be Udemy course, it could be a book, it could be something else like videos. A lot of people supply videos and stuff like that. Whatever it is, you stick to one stuff, but a complete stuff, and you should have researched very well. So my point was not to go for any other book, right? So Mr. Abdul Azad, I hope I answered your question. And about Vishwa Anand, do we need to study PMBOK along with your book or to refer glossary? Well, what I have done in my particular book, every aspect of PMBOK glossary is already covered. And not only that, at the end of the book, in fact, at the end of every chapter, all the important tools and techniques, all the important patterns, and all the important concepts which you should know very well are written as something known as ninja drill, right? It's a very comprehensive book. It's actually a pretty big book. So a lot of people actually do not look at book PMBOK at all, because that's the reason I wrote the book, that I wanted to write a book so comprehensive. There's an example for everything. So it's very easy for people to understand. And as I said, as Mr. Abdul Azad has also written here, it's filled with more than 900 different hand-drawn illustrations, so that you don't have to mug up. Things will be there in your mind, and you'll be able to recall. So if you're particularly reading my book, which is Read and Pass Notes, then you don't need a PMBOK. That's for sure, because I spent a lot of time making sure that once you read my book, you would not have to read anything else, right? And Abdul Azad, again, has a question. Also, any simulation you can suggest? Well, Mr. Abdul Azad, if I understand, you already have my book. So there's a very interesting aspect of my book. Once you finish that book, at the very end, there is a code that is given. That code gives you access to my, it's one of the best exam simulator in the industry, and that belongs to me. It's called a2z.pmpulse.com, and it gives you a code. And you enter that code, the whole details, how to enter, everything is given in that book. And when you enter that code, you have an access to PMP Exam simulator. And I mean, I've worked very hard on that simulator. People love it. There are 5 sets of 200 questions each. In fact, there are more than 1,200 questions. There's so many questions on per knowledge area wise as well. So a lot of questions and amazing questions. In fact, by the time people finish 5 sets, they are really very confident, and they just go ahead and go for the exams, and they just pass it, right? So right now, these are the questions that I had. I'm going to spend a couple of more minutes, but I'll be constantly looking at the Q&A window, right? So if at all there is any other question that comes up, I'll be over here to answer anyway. Right? So the surprise that I want to give to you, for everybody who's attended this webinar, it's a very free gift for you. I have made my pmpulse.com for a few days. My flashcards are free. So if you just register to pmpulse.com, you just go to the site, pmpulse there's a hyphen in between, pulse.com. One of the menu items is called flashcards. You go there, you just register, and it'll be available to you. Those are amazing flashcards all right? But don't use them immediately. Get your access, but you must finish your strength first and then use flashcards to build up your speed. There is no point doing flashcards if you've not built up your strength. So build up your strength and then move to flashcards. And these flashcards are in 3 categories. The very first category is about all the most important definitions and all the most important concepts, all the most important aspects of knowledge areas. Everything is in the very first set. The second one is all about all the most important ITTOs, input, tools and techniques, output. I can guarantee if you go through those flashcards, ITTOs, you don't need anything else as far as ITTOs is concerned in the whole exams, right? So you'll become really quick at ITTOs, right? And the third one is a very interesting thing. You will never find it anywhere on the planet as far as PMP is concerned. This is something that I had created for myself when I was making notes way back in the year 2000 when I gave the exam for PMP and I got 97%. In those days, they used to give percentages. Now they just tell you, proficient or not. I don't like it. I'm a very numbers guy, so I loved percentages. So in those days, what I did is I used to create a very interesting thing called, if the examination question is talking about certain keywords, then what are they talking about? Which process are they talking about? Which situation are they talking about? So the third category of flashcard is all about that which portion, what are the keywords? If this, if you find certain keywords in a question, then which specific process, which specific concept, which specific stage of project they're talking about, there's a relationship. Now, why is that important? Because around 85 to 90% of all questions in PMP exams are all scenario based, which means you have to look at the question. Some of them are like 3 paragraphs long. So if you look at the question, your mind should be able to tell you, oh, all right, these guys are talking about this, so that you can look at the answer, choose the right one. That's the third category. You'll never find it anywhere else, right? So I worked very hard for it, and it's available for you guys for free. Just register, and it's yours, right? So that was the gift that I wanted to give you. So you guys are here. You earned it, all right? So thanks a lot for your presence, guys. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. I know it's different times for different people, particularly from India. It's like in between your dinner time or just after your dinner time or just before, but you guys are here and thank you so much, right? So I'm going to wait for another couple of minutes. I'll keep the Q&A open. And if you have any other question for exactly 1 minute, I'm here, right? And let me know. Any other question that you have? As far as preparation is concerned, do let me know. So we have a few participants here. I think I recognized a couple of them. Let me try to see. So I don't know if Somnath listened to me. What I've done, Somnath, is I've given you the permission to speak. I can even unmute you. You can unmute yourself. There'll be a mic icon in front of you, Mr. Somnath Chatterjee. You can actually start speaking. All right. At this time, I've got another question, and it's Somnath. All right. Thank you, Maneesh. All right. It's not a question. All right.
So, yeah, you're awesome, Maneesh.
Hey, thank you, Somnath. Yeah, absolutely, Somnath. So what time is it in UK right now?
It's 4:35.
4:35. All right. I don't know how you manage this time at the afternoon. So hey, it's very nice to see you, Somnath. Right?
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think we are talking almost after 10 years, and I must say that you have the same passion, more mature, more polished, and really great.
Thanks a lot, Somnath. Thank you very much. All right. Sure. I have a question from Mr. Gopalakrishnan. So, are you operating from India? Any F2F weekend sessions you conduct? F2F, I'm assuming it means face-to-face. All right. I think it's face-to-face. I'm a dinosaur, right? So when it comes to that acronyms, I have a little bit of issues. Like when I work on WhatsApp, some people write, what's that? TK, T and K. And then I really don't understand what the hell he's talking about. Then he says, take care. All right. So I guess that's what it is. F2F is face-to-face. Yes, I am operating from India. And within India, I'm actually operating from the city of Delhi. Right. So I do have face-to-face, and I do travel. Like, I go to different parts of India. In fact, there's hardly any place left in India where I've not been. As I said, I also travel. So I do a lot of face-to-face. But right now, if I understand what's happening as far as coronavirus is concerned, chances are that we'll not be able to have any face-to-face till the end of June. That's what it looks like, because even after 3rd of May, I mean, for those guys who are not from India, 3rd of May is the lockdown period that we have. But even after 3rd of May, the lockdown is not going to be completely lifted. It's going to be gradual, right? So a lot of people will not be allowed to go to offices and a lot of stuff, right? So somebody says, Mr. Atul Sharma, cannot see link to register. Please help in locating it. If you could actually mention specifically which link are you talking about? I mean, Atul Sharma, if you could just let me know a little bit more about which link you're looking for, right? So, for flashcard, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just hang around, and after answering the question of Mr. Adi Pradeep, I'm actually going to remove the slides, and I'll actually show you. I'll run it on my, on my website, and I'll show it to you. So, Mr. Pradeep, when your book will be available for purchase on Amazon? Okay, let me answer both these questions by actually stopping the share. Don't go away. I'm stopping the share, please, so that I can actually show you the book, right? So, right. So let me get this. Wait a second. I'll just put it up. So let me put up the Amazon.com first, and I'm going to link it to you guys very soon. Let me show the share screen, and wait a second. Okay. Sorry, me a little while. So I'm pretty sure you can see the Google, and what I'm going to do is I can put on Amazon. I'm going to use Amazon.in for the time being. I can also use Amazon.com. And what you do is, all you have to do is just write read and pass. It's already available on Amazon. And if you just click on this, right, you'll get this, right? It's right here, right? So I'm sure you can see it. It's called, and all these things are hand-drawn. So to make you feel as if you're studying like the way you made notes during your, PMP, not PMP, during your university days. So the entire book is made like that. All right. So go through it. It's available. So I hope I've been able to answer the question of Mr. Atul Sharma. Right now about Mr. Adi Pradeep. Now let me actually, since you're already focused here, let me go to pmpulse.com. All right. What happens is you have to click flashcards over here. And then since you don't have a login, you just have to register here. Once you fill up all your details, you submit, this will be sent, across to your email. And you'll have your, user ID and password on email. I already have it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what it looks like. And very quickly. My password, I don't even know whether it will work or not. It didn't. All right. So let's see. All right, so I finally remembered. So these are the three categories that I was talking about. So if you go for this general flashcards, you can just click the flashcards, right? So this got 427 questions. So the very first thing is, what is the definition of the project? Try to remember the answer as fast as you can, and then see the answer yourself, right? The next one. So there are 427 like this, right? That's the same thing with all the other. These are the ones that I have made. Okay, so I hope that answers the question for Mr. Atul Sharma. Just tell me yes or no if you understood how to find the in the Q&A, just write you understood that you found the flashcards, and you can register for it and stuff like that, right? So just give me some kind of this thing. For others who are here, there is something very interesting that I've done. Okay, thank you. That's very nice of you. And the other thing is something. Since you guys are here, you got the patience. I'm going to misuse your patience. Show you something. This is the first of its kind on the planet, and I tried my best to do this. So it's called dhwani.com. For those who are not good with Hindi, there's a term called dhwani. Basically, in Sanskrit, means celestial sounds, right? So I thought I'll use a Sanskrit Indian word to describe my site, which I've created. Site is all about audios, right? So it's got a lot of free audios. There are a lot of packages here. So these are available to you for these packages, and listen to all the audios, right, that you can think of. These audios are more comprehensive than any book that you'll find. They're as comprehensive than the book that I have written. Really huge, beautiful, right? And I'll just try to show you the taster audio. Sure if you'll be able to hear or not, because I'm going to run it from my site. There are a lot of free audios, and I keep adding a lot of free audios. There'll be a lot of definitions here. So in case you want to understand PMO, so a lot of stuff. Like I like to give a lot of information to people. I have this habit. This project management is a passion, right? So it's not something that I do for profit. Yes, I do make some money. Of course, I need money to drink beer. I'm beer baba. So I need that money, but most of it is for, generally for the passion of it. So for example, I put some taster audios. So I'm not too sure if you'll be able to hear this. Just let me know if you can hear anything. Yes or no, something. All right. So because sometimes these things don't work over the internet for some reason, because I'm using what do you call this? The webinar cannot work, right? So anyway, you guys can do it on your own. I'll tell you the site. The site is dhwani.pm-pulse.com. And you'll find the free audios here if you want. Those guys who likes to listen to audios, you can even subscribe to the audio platform. So it's your call, right? So guys, right? I just want to appreciate your time. Thank you once again. See that there were some chats written somewhere. Let me have a look at the chat if there is anything that somebody might have asked. So Mr. Gopal Krishnan has already answered that. And then Mr. Utpal Vaishnav says, Manishji, I really like the approach. The focus is on the learning, and passing the exam is just a byproduct. That's how learning should happen. Really happy to. So thanks. And then we have Bhuvnesh Dhingra. Hello, sir. I'm also hearing your voice after 10 years. All right. Okay. I got your training. Yeah, I remember Mr. Bhuvnesh. I remember him very well. And then we have Mr. Adi Pradeep. It was a wonderful session. Thank you. All right. So there was no questions here, but thanks for all the comments. I really appreciate that. Everything worthwhile. Guys, this brings us to the end. I'm just going to double check if there is any other question left. Well, no, not so far. So guys, I'll take your leave, and thank you once again for being here. Makes a lot of difference, right? So I'm going to stop the sharing. I'm actually now going to end the meeting. Thank you once again, guys.